Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a very special foundation review with the brand new Huda Beauty. It's got nothing to do with her beauty, although I'm sure that's excellent. But this is to do with her new faux filter foundation. So I'm going to be giving this a tester today. I'm very excited, literally brand new, straight through my letterbox this morning on next day delivery. So just a little bit about the product. I have mine in the shade 300N, which is the shade Latte. Huda has an amazing foundation shade guide on her blog, and I will link that down below. So that is so helpful. I actually made a very stressful decision by myself before I saw that blog, and I struggled and was very confused, and I just kind of went with my gut, and by phenomenal chance I actually nailed it and went with the one that she would have recommended for me. So this shade Latte is supposed to be a good match for the Fenty Beauty 260, which is a good match for me, so hopefully this is going to work nicely. It's also supposed to be a good match for Estee Lauder shade Tawny, so if you are in that shade range, Tawny is a good match for you, or the Fenty Beauty 260 is a good match for you, or like an NC 30-ish, or you're fairly neutral tones, then this would hopefully be a good shade for you. So I initially wanted to purchase this from Cult Beauty. It is also for sale on the Selfridges website and Harrods in the UK, or of course you can go to Sephora if you're in the US. I tried to get this from Cult Beauty, but literally within about 5 minutes of this going live on their website, despite them hyping it up so much, it was sold out in what, like, I would have bought one of any of 8 shades I would have given a go just for the purpose of reviewing and trying it out, and none of those shades were in stock after about 10 minutes of it going live. So I was pretty raging about that because they cannot have had good stock levels. So an amazing makeup friend over on Instagram on Huda's post, or on Cult Beauty's post, sorry, told me that Selfridges had all the shades in stock, so I quickly jumped across over there, and that is the case. So Selfridges obviously and Harrods were far better prepared for the launch, or had far better stock levels, so those are the places that you can get it from if you are struggling. So just a quick comparison between these two, because it kind of gives me similar vibes. So this is obviously the Fenty Pro filter, and this is the Huda faux filter, so they even have a similar name. Both of them have gone above the standard 30ml that you usually get with most foundations. Fenty has gone for 32, odd number, and Huda has gone for 35, so even more. So this one will cost you £30, this one costs you 26, so you get you know, a few extra mils for that few extra pounds. Neither foundation has SPF in it, and both are supposed to be full coverage and have a fairly matte finish, although this one claims to have like a bit of a luminosity to it, although I would say that this one does as well. So there you go. They're both supposed to be very smoothing, like having a filter on your skin. So I feel like they'll be good to have some good comparisons between the two. My dog is barking. So this is supposed to be suitable for all skin types, oily, normal, combo, dry, all skin types. They do say you don't need to set it with a powder if you are dry, but you might want to, I guess, if you are very oily. It's supposed to be waterproof, life-proof, sweat-proof, weatherproof, I don't know, nuclear explosion proof. That's 30 shades, which is a decent number, although now we're like, you know, 30 shades. Fenty had 40. So without further ado, let's get this stuff on my face and see how it goes. I did a bit of a swatch comparison. I've just put some Fenty foundation on my arm, and I swatched it against the Latte, and I have concerns. Because the blog post definitely said that if you are 260 in the Fenty, then the Latte shade will be a good shade for you. But I would say that this is the Huda and this is the 260, and there's quite a difference there. This one is, I would say, at least a shade or two lighter. So we'll see how we get on. We'll see, but I'm nervous. Now, I just will say that this box feels very nice and soft and very lovely. This also has a shelf life of 18 months, which is quite long for a foundation. So this is what the package looks like. So it is plastic. It's got this kind of like, it looks like the container within a container, if you will. And it has obviously the logo down there. It feels really light, I guess because it's plastic versus glass, but it literally feels half the weight of this one, despite the 35ml, but this, it is huge. A pretty large sized bottle. So she does say, oh wow, it does say on the Selfridges, on the Sephora website that this can be applied with a brush or a sponge. She recommends a brush if you're going for full coverage, and if you want to keep more of a dewy finish to your skin, then to go for a sponge. And that will give you a bit of a lighter coverage as well. So I'm going to do half and half. I have primed my skin using the Stila One Step Correct because that isn't going to kind of alter the foundation or give it any kind of different finish or anything like that. So without further ado, let's start with one pump. Oh, shake. One pump on this side of my face and see where that gets us. So that's a pretty big pump, to be fair. It's quite liquidy, it's moving about quite a bit. Oh, it smells beautiful. It's quite perfumed. Oh, sorry, my baby's woken up and he's just giving us a rendition of Wheels on the Bus by the sounds of it. So that's a bit of extra for you, for your money. Now, okay, so it smells beautiful, but it is a strong, like I would say, perfumed smell. So I would suggest that if you're not a fan of that, then that might be an issue for you, but my goodness. Okay, so there's your coverage. There is your coverage. That was one pump, and I would say that probably would have done my whole face fairly easily, like definitely with a brush. So not only do you get 35ml for your money, but you also are not going to need a lot. Right, so this is going to be interesting because that shade looks good. It looks good right now, but we'll see how it's going to dry down. I will say that when I swatched it on my arm, go away hairs, it did take quite a long time to dry fully down. So I imagine we might get a little bit of a darker dry down than this, but otherwise this is a really good match for me. So I'm happy and relieved so far. Hopefully by the end, not too much will have changed. So that has gone a very long way, that pump. That is full coverage, even though I used a sponge. So yeah, she ain't lying. Okay, so now we'll go on the other side of my face with my Morphe M439, and again we'll go one pump and we'll see. It's actually easy to do like half a pump or less than a whole pump with this pump, so that's, how many times can we say pump? That's helpful if you wanted to go for like less product or lighter coverage. It's going to be fairly easy to do that. Okay, so the scent, it's definitely noticeable. Like as you're putting it on, I'm getting wafts of it, which I'm enjoying, but I know lots of people do not like strong scents, so this is a strong scent. It's probably the most perfumed foundation I've used, to be honest. But it is definitely a perfume. It's a very pleasant smell. It's not like a foundation-y smell. Done. I mean, that was in about 3 seconds. Did you see how quick that was? I don't really feel like I'm having to wear it quickly because it's not sort of drying on me like in a race or anything, but it is just so quick. The coverage is there. You know, one pump, a brush, full coverage, everything is gone. I mean, it's weird because against my neck, it definitely looks too light for me, but on my arm, it's quite a bit darker than the Fenty. I am interested to see how this is gonna, you know, give it a little while, although there doesn't really seem to be much difference. You see, obviously this side has had longer to sort of dry down. Doesn't seem to be any difference in shade, so I wouldn't say it's necessarily drying down any darker. I'd love to know what you think though, because obviously you've kind of had a bit of a better idea as I'm putting it on. So that was very quick, very easy to blend in, no problems, like lightning fast. I'm not really seeing a difference in coverage. Maybe this side is the slightest bit more full, maybe ever so slightly. I can still see my sort of beauty spots here. I'm looking very smooth, very perfected. It's definitely not emphasizing like lines or anything like that, and my forehead look nice and smooth. The finish is pretty matte. There's maybe a very slight sort of natural effect going on, but I'd say it is pretty matte. I was kind of hoping for a bit more luminosity just because that's my personal preference, but it is pretty matte, I would say. Certainly a decent full coverage, I would say. I mean, I guess it's not full because you can see my beauty spots just, but this is more than enough coverage for me. Take a quick flash photo before we go any further and see what happens there. I'm not really noticing any white cast at all, guys. That is good news. That is a good news day. So I'm gonna do, sorry, that's a bit aggressive. I'm gonna do the rest of my makeup and then we'll be back to have a closer look and see how it has worked with all my products. Bye-bye for a sec. Okay, so I have done the rest of my makeup, concealer, bronzer, highlight, and blush, as you can see. Let me tell you, putting products on top of this foundation was like a dream. I have never experienced anything like that with a foundation. So I was just literally doing what I normally do, my bronzer, going quite hard. It felt like putting powder on top of silk. I haven't touched it, I haven't set it. I've set my concealer under my under eyes and like my chin and my nose. And I also went in and set my moustache area because I always do, because of sweating and because of smile lines. That's another story. But there's no other powder on my face and I didn't powder it, but it feels like I've put an absolute shed ton of powder on my face. As I was going like this, I was like, what? Like it feels like putting powders on top of silk. That's what it feels like. It was a pleasure, a pleasure. So, I mean, from here, it looks freaking flawless AF. Absolutely flawless. Literally, as it says, like a filter, very reminiscent of the Fenty. If you love that, you will love this. I think this is more matte, which I'm surprised by. I was kind of hoping it would be less matte, more luminous. It isn't. To me, this is a true matte. It looks, close up it looks a bit heavier than I would like it, but to be fair, it does say to use one pump and I've used one pump for each half of my face. So obviously if I went in with one pump for my whole face and a sponge, it probably would not look as heavy. And I would probably prefer to use this personally with like a really luminous base or a glowing like primer to add a little bit of life, because it is, to me, it's a pretty flat matte. I'm not sure if you're getting any kind of luminosity. I'm not. It definitely, to me, it does not look natural. It does not look for like glowy or even luminous or even a natural finish. To me, this is a really matte finish, which is not my preference, but it does look beautiful, absolutely flawless, really smooth. I am in my 30s. I have texture, I have lines, all that kind of stuff, and you can't see it. Let's have a close-up look and see. So, I mean, can you see that? I'd also say what a phenomenal match, which has confused me because, again, we'll look at these swatches. Both these foundations match me really well, and I think on camera they're looking a closer match than they are in person. In person, honestly, I would say the Fenty is more golden and the Huda is maybe more of a sort of true neutral, like it looks like a true neutral, whereas maybe the Fenty 260 is like a sort of neutral golden, which I think is maybe how it's described, so that's fair enough. But I would say both of these foundations are a really good match for me, so that is spot on. But can you see how flawless, how smooth, how literally perfect my skin looks? If you can see, my forehead looks very, very smooth. The lines are smoothed and reduced. And the same, my chin is my problem area, very textured. I can still see my texture here. I would maybe say that the Fenty does slightly better with that. And as with every foundation, it has seeped into my smile lines, but like I said, that every foundation does that on me. I've yet to find one that doesn't, and this is definitely a sort of average to good as far as soaking into those smile lines. It's one of the better ones that I have tried for that. So there you have it. Those are kind of my first impression thoughts. We're going to give this a bit of a wear test. So currently on 11:39. So as far as I can find anywhere, there isn't like a number of hours claim. It just kind of says long wearing and like completely resistant to any water, weather, etc. So I'm expecting this to certainly hold up for a good 9 hours, which would like cover me for like a good work day. So yeah, I'm kind of hopeful that this is going to stay like this. It's beautiful. It is like, the more I look in the mirror, and I don't know, hopefully it will be like with the Fenty, when I first put it on, I'm like, it looks nice, it looks really good. But I get like halfway through the day and then I'm like, now it is looking phenomenal, as it just sort of settles and maybe my natural oil spray through a little bit. It just looks phenomenal. So I'm hoping this is going to kind of also settle a bit into my skin. I'll love it even more, just because I am a kind of more of a luminous, dewy kind of girl. I don't like, generally I don't tend to go for full coverage matte, but this is beautiful, and if I did, I'd be all about this. So I'm kind of excited to see how it wears in over the next few hours, and if I love it more as it sort of settles. So we'll see how we'll get on. I'll see you in a good 8 to 9 hours, let's say. Bye-bye for now. Hi guys, welcome back. So it is now 8 p.m, which means we are coming up to 8.5 hours of wear. And I mean, what can I say? I have given this foundation a pretty tough test, to be fair, today. It is really hot in my house, so I have the heating on like full blast because that's just how I roll. And it is freezing over here right now, like literally middle of winter freezing, even though it's only just October. However, that's another story. So yeah, heating is up in my house. I had a slight issue with my freezer, which meant I did a whole defrosting of my freezer, which, you know, did get me a little sweating. And I've also been just playing with my kids all day, running around, running errands. It's been a stressful day. It's been a hot day. It's been a crazy day. I also did bath time with my children, so I've done a lot of sort of playing and like, you know, rubbing my face on my kids, and I do a lot of kissing of them, and I've eaten like 3 meals since I put this on. So there's been a lot of rubbing of my face on places. I had a little nap earlier, all that kind of stuff. I also did a very splashy bath time with my babies, so I definitely know that I got splash on my face, and I didn't touch it. I didn't want to like kind of dab it or anything. I just left it, and there is not a watermark, not a splash mark, not any kind of fading that I can really see. You can see that my bronzer, my blush, my highlight is all still on and looking pretty fresh. The tiniest, slightest thing when I'm literally staring at my mirror just down here that I can see that has changed is that the very tip of my nose has slightly just started to like, just ever so slightly started to separate on the tip of my nose. My smile lines did slightly settle a little more in there, so that's kind of their like average for a foundation as far as the seeping into my smile lines. Happens with every foundation on me. Around my nose is fine. My chin, which is for me, every foundation is the first place it goes, is on my chin. And if I really look, I can just see a little bit of redness starting to show through on my chin, which is like where my foundation goes from. But for 8.5 hours in, that is really good. I guess my kind of final thoughts on this foundation are that I like it. I think it looks really flawless and really beautiful. It's not my favorite type of finish on a foundation, so I prefer a more luminous finish, a dewy finish. I kind of need some kind of luminosity to the skin, and for me this is very, very matte. I don't find it to have kind of any luminosity about it. It is just very matte, so for that reason it isn't my favorite foundation. I guess I would say if I was doing a direct choice that I would prefer the Fenty over this, because it does have just that slight like light to it, that slightly more natural kind of finish to it. So I guess for that reason I would choose the Fenty over this one. But if you are looking for a very matte, very full coverage foundation where a little goes a very long way, then absolutely this would be a really good purchase, and you get 5 extra mils for a pretty decent price point. So yeah, I think it's a really, really good foundation, just kind of not my cup of tea, I guess. So I guess, oh, hello, where are we? So I guess my final thoughts on this foundation are that it photographs beautifully. I'll show you a photo now. I guess my final thoughts are that it is a very good foundation. I think it's really good value, considering especially that you get the 35 mils for £30, which I think is a really decent price point for that amount of foundation. It does have a very strong scent, beautiful perfume scent that I enjoyed, and I got wafts of like some time after I'd applied it, but obviously that is not for everybody, although I like that. It is a very matte finish. I don't find it to have much luminosity about it at all, if any. It has a very powdered finish that other products go beautifully on top of, and I think it does photograph amazingly well and lasts very well. I think this would be a really good option for brides because the flashback was really, really nice, like as in there was none. It's also really long lasting, kind of budge proof, waterproof, all that stuff. So I think this would be an excellent choice for a bride. Yeah, is the finish personally my absolute favorite? Probably not. I do prefer something a little more natural looking, a little lighter looking, and a little sort of more luminous or dewy or glowy. That's kind of just my cup of tea. So yeah, I kind of, would it be my absolute holy grail of all time? No, but that's just because of my personal kind of foundation preferences. So if you are a matte, full coverage kind of girl, little goes a long way, value for money, check it out. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe before you go so I can see you again. So yeah, I think that's everything I have to say. Otherwise, have a great weekend and a great next week. See you later. Bye bye for now.